Welcome to the For Real Though Show. I am your host, Christopher Keith. Hope all is well. So, what's happening in your world these days? Well, in Central Ohio, where I am, fortunately for us, the weather has broken. So, after days and nights of cold, snow, sleet, ice all over the place, a couple school closures, the weather has broken, at least for now. Um, got a lot of sunshine. Most of the ice is melted. Uh, say hello to the potholes, but it's nice to see some sunshine. Good, get that good vitamin D, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm really looking forward to getting to walking like I normally do. It's been about a month. Uh, wow. So hey, I know a lot of the country has been going through the same thing. So I think we're all getting a little bit of a break now. Winter might not be quite over with, but hey, we're still here. We're blessed. We're thankful, and we're moving on. So hope you are doing the same. Well, today we're going to continue with our self care series, right? And I'm not sure if this is three or four, but nevertheless, today's word and today's lesson is the word boundaries. Boundaries. Do you have them? Of course you do. Boundaries are something that you live with and deal with every day. Like, for instance, when I walk, right? I go take a walk and I go to the park and I might see somebody walking their dog. It might be a cute little doggy. And, I like dogs. Uh, and if I see a cute little doggy, and he's looking at me, I might look at him and be like, hey, I want to go, hey, little buddy, he's a good boy. Who's a good boy? And rub his head and stuff. Um, but I don't do that unless I get either a verbal okay from the dog's owner, whoever happened to be walking the dog, or body language that yes, go ahead, that tells me that it's okay. That's a boundary, right? You don't just walk up to somebody's dog and just start petting them. You don't just walk up to somebody in a baby carriage and be like, there's a cute little baby, let me pick that baby up. Oh, start kissing on the baby. You don't even know the damn baby, right? No, so those are boundaries. And we exercise them every day for the most part. Most of us exercise them every day. Those of us who don't probably end up in jail or end up hurt some form of fashion if you keep that kind of behavior up. Uh, but yeah. People, we 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 as people, we all have to deal with boundaries. If you recall, if you ever saw the movie The Wood, you remember when little Mike was on the playground at the school and his friends hyped him up and told him he should go grab Alicia's behind. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, girls like it when you grab them on the ass. Man, they like that out here in LA because, Mike was from North Carolina. So he got souped up and went over there, grabbed Alicia in the ass. She turned around, buddy, and the wrath of God came down on this dude. Not only that, after he got through apologizing, she's like, and I'm going to tell my brother Stacy, and he going to kick your ass. So that's what ended up happening, right? Because Alicia's ass was a boundary that he didn't have permission to go grab it. So, needless to say, again, boundaries are a part of life, right? Boundaries are a part of our regular lives. But a lot of times, I don't think that we set enough of them sometimes, especially when it comes to our own mental space, our mental health. Uh, sometimes we let things go in order to go along to get along. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about setting healthy boundaries for yourself and for others around you. So let's talk about why people don't set healthy boundaries. And we'll get into some of those specifically soon. Sometimes fear of rejection, you know, uh, it can be, a rejection or ultimately abandon, if you don't go along to get along and do things that other people want you to do, let them use you in a fashion that you're not satisfied on the inside of doing. You may be a young lady or a young person, who may not, for instance, may not be ready to have sex, right? But if you just want to kind of go along to get along, you don't want to be rejected or talked about or looked down upon or lose this partner or what have you, this potential partner, then you just might go along with it. You may be depressed and you just may go along with it. You may not feel much of your own self-worth and you may just go along with it. So that is, anytime that you're participating in something or allowing someone else to get you into something that you were not are not fully endorsed into, that's a lack of a boundary that you're setting. Okay. Um, Sometimes it's feelings of guilt, right? Might be feel guilty. And again, that kind of goes back into people pleasing as well. People pleasing. Um, peer pressure. Peer pressure. There's a podcast I listen to called Ear Hustle, and it's out of San Quentin prison in California. And a lot of the guys that are in prison, at least some of them that I've listened to, whether it's gang activity or what have you, robbing a gas station, whatever the case may be, a lot of it was peer pressure. Not want to be called a punk, weak, this, that, and the other. But again, that even though they knew in their own hearts that, man, this is not what I'm about, this is not what I want to do with my life, you know, they didn't set a boundary to say, I'll do this, but this over here I'm not going to do. They ended up paying a big price for it, so that's what I'm saying, man. We have to be aware mentally, emotionally, physically about boundaries, and making sure that we set them uh, for ourselves. Because what happens when you don't set the boundaries, you don't set healthy boundaries, you end up, feeling resentful. Okay, you end up feeling angry, bitter. You get stressed. And it's really bad for your heart, bad for your immune system. And really, I tell you what, it's not really that you're mad at the other person. You know what I mean? You really just upset at yourself. You know what I mean? So what happens when you don't set healthy boundaries and you end up compromising yourself, doing things that you don't want to do, letting people into spaces and places that you're not comfortable with, that guilt comes back on you. That pain, that sense of failure comes back on you. You end up punishing your own self in this fashion, not the other person. You're really not mad at the person that got you to do this or got you to do that per se. You're really upset at yourself because you feel like, hey, I didn't stand up for myself. Uh, and again, there are many examples. So you have to learn how to set them. You have to learn how to set them again. Whether it's sex, uh, your personal space, right? Uh, sometimes with our friends can tend to not respect their boundaries. You ever have a friend that just pop up over to the crib, without calling? Now, every now and then that might be okay, depending on who the friend is, right? It might be okay. Somebody, we got friends that stop by every now and then, and they may be from out of town and they kind of doing the rounds real quick. So, it's middle of the daytime. They may just pop up, hey, yo, what's up? Okay, what's up? What's up? What's up? Right? Well, in normal circumstances, it's at least in this culture, it's disrespectful to just show up over somebody's house, unannounced. That's setting a boundary. Or somebody, they come over and then they walk in and just start grabbing stuff out. I was going to say shit, stuff out your refrigerator. Um, again, these are boundaries, that you have to set. Some other boundaries that you may not think about are self discipline boundaries. You know, talked about the cell phone before. All the social media, uh, emails. A lot of times you should be chilling. resting your mind, doing something fun, spending time with your family, whatever the case may be, and you're just glued to your phone. So even though it's an object, they do have algorithms to try to keep you, you know, zeroed in on that phone. So now you have an object, an algorithm, a machine pushing over you to a degree where you're not setting boundaries for it. You just doing whatever. You just as soon as it calls, zzz, zzz, you just pick it up. As soon as it's zzz, ding dong, zzz, zzz, like a crack addict. You know what I'm saying? You be watching TV, and I'm guilty of it, right? That's what I'm saying. I can relate. I'm guilty of it. Sometimes you be sitting there watching, enjoying a good movie. Zzz, see what it is. See what it is, right? Sometimes you just have to put this stuff down to setting a boundary. I'm setting a boundary. I'm not tripping off this phone. You know, if it's an emergency, I'm gonna find out about it. Otherwise, there's some time where I'm doing this, I'm doing that, meditating, watch TV, spending time with the family, whatever the case may be, watching my Lakers or something, boot this phone, right? So sometimes you got to set boundaries on that stuff. Tell you another boundary. This happened for all 4 years of 45's presidency. There's times when I would listen to what he had to say, and then, I'd be like, nah, okay, that's enough. I cut it off, right? Then it got to the point where whenever he was talking, the stuff he was saying was so ridiculous, you know, that it was hurting me to listen to it. And I'm serious. Like it was disturbing my peace to listen to his foolishness. So I had to stop. So there are times when I'm watching TV, and they'll show him talking to some click, click. Why? I'm setting a boundary. And it may sound facetious, but it's really not. It's really for my own mental health. I can't do it. I can't do it. My mom, she loves to watch like Fox News and stuff. And back in the day, especially like in Obama presidency, she would be like, I just want to see what they're saying. And I'd be like, Mama, I can already tell you what they're saying. Obama's bad, you know, uh Rush Limbaugh's good. You know what I mean? Anything that's quote unquote conservative or right wing is good. Racism is good, although it really doesn't exist. I'm like, I can already tell you what they're gonna say. All you gotta do is the same stuff they were saying in June, they're gonna be saying in August and September, October. So I just know that I can't do it. It's not that I don't want to hear opposing opinions, because I do. I do listen to opposing opinions. Uh, so it's not about that. It's just that when you talking stupid, and I feel like I got the right to define stupid. Stupid for me is intellectually dishonest. Intellectual intellectually dishonesty, right? Intellectual dishonesty, put it that way. So when someone is intellectually dishonest, why would I spend time listening to them? I've done that before, right? I've done that before. I've debated with people who uh were just saying crazy stuff to me. I remember talking to this guy, real conservative guy back in the day, and he came at me with this, well, the Republican, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And I asked him, I said, so are you telling me that because you didn't know about the transformation between the Dixiecrats and how the Republicans and Democrats switched the stuff up? Did you not know that? Or are you telling me because you thought I didn't know? Right? I remember talking to the same person about the Southern strategy, and how I think it was Lee Atwater that was like, yeah, we can't say, nigger, nigger, nigger like we used to. Now we have to say crime. We have to say law and order, and those people would know what it means. And I remember showing him articles because he didn't believe it. I showed him articles from the New York Times from actual quotes, these actual quotes from the people who said it. And he's gonna tell me I don't believe it. So after that, it's like it's nothing for us to talk about anymore, right? Uh, I had an old sergeant that used to say, the more I talk, the more you talk, the dumber I get, some to that degree, So it's like, why, so instead of me, because again, I'm the type of person where if we're gonna have a real debate, a real exchange of thoughts and ideas, let's have a real good change of thoughts and ideas. But let's be intellectually honest about it. Let's not bullshit one another, with talking points and stuff like that. So if you're not gonna, I've been in several conversations with people who, and again, I'm talking about, conservatives, Republicans right now, who want to have a one-sided thing. And this is what I mean by one-sided. If they say, for instance, I didn't like what President Obama did about with this situation, I may be like, you know what, I agree with you on there. As a matter of fact, I didn't agree with Obama on this, that, and the other, right? I'd be like, yeah, I hear you. But then again, when it came time for them to fess up to something that their stalwarts were doing, they wouldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So it's a situation where I'm the only one that's conceding anything. I believe that you have to have, again, competing ideas. Uh, I don't think that I don't consider. I think I'm liberal in some areas and conservative in others. But I do believe in a healthy change of ideas. I don't think that I'm always right, but there has to be, again, a place where we start off from the facts. So when somebody says, the election was stolen, well, that's just not a fact. So why am I going to debate that? Why am I going to listen to that on TV? You know, because it's only going to screw up my peace. I'm only putting stuff in my spirit that's unhealthy for me. So, I may even get teased about it sometimes. I'll be like, click, but it's okay. I don't worry about it because I know what's good for my spirit. I'm not gonna sit up here and listen to Jim Jordan. I'm not gonna, and I hate to bring up political people like that. But again, these people are all concerned about talking points. And I don't mean to get on a rant about that, but the point is, I got the right to just turn the freaking TV to another channel, right? Uh, and that's what I do. You have to control what comes into your spirit, you know. And it's not the same for everybody. If you can sit there and watch Fox News or what have you all day, that's fine. Or CNN all day, that's fine. Uh, and don't get me wrong, CNN and Fox News, their sins are not they're not exactly the same, right? So I'm not doing this as a false equivalency, right? So let's make sure we get that straight. Incidentally, as far as my mom goes, one of her one of her areas where she told me she kind of let up some was the 700 Club. Why my mama watched the 700 Club, I do not know. I think I've watched it before, and they do have some cool stories about faith and things like that. But that damn Pat Robertson, man, I mean, he's a tool. You know what I'm saying? And so I couldn't watch him. I couldn't watch him uh, because it would just be so frustrating to me. So again, for me, that's a barrier. For you, maybe not, but you got to know how to set your own. Anyway, I'm all the way off on the rant. But so let me get back to it. But that is a legit example, of you having to decide, what's really good for you and what's not. Toxic relationships. If you ever been in a toxic relationship, I have. Um, people who only take from you. They don't give anything back. They only take from you. Uh, I remember one time. Look, I remember one time I had gotten out of a relationship, and it was kind of ugly. And so, I'm going about my business, right? I ain't like the way it ended or what have you. And it was a third party situation, and so, you know, it was cool. Like, okay, I'm gonna go on about my business. I'm gonna accept this and move on. Well, this particular person just kept calling me though, like just kept wanting to call me to check on me to see how I'm doing. And I'm like, I got to the point, I just didn't answer the phone. I didn't answer the phone. And at one point she was like, Chris, I just want to see how you doing. I'm worried about you. And I'm like, there was nothing for me, I wasn't gonna, it's not for me to get on the phone and be like, hey, I'm okay. Thanks for asking. No, because at that point, me talking to this person, it was gonna be worse for me. Like, so I was gonna give her the satisfaction of hearing my voice. Hey, what you doing? What you up to? Kind of trying to keep tabs on me while doing what you was doing or what have you. And being able to quiz me about what I'm doing, know that I'm okay, that I'm on half-ass standby. And then you going about your business. I'm sitting over here all jacked up. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here, having to hear the person's voice and, you know, all these spiritual connection things going on, right? And so I knew, and that was many, many years ago. But I knew even then I wasn't even like half as mature as I am now, right? I hadn't had counseling therapy, none of that yet. But I remember being smart enough to know to set a boundary. I will not answer your call. I am not going to talk to you. I'm not going to explain it to you. I'm not going to justify it to you. I have nothing to justify it. It's not because I'm mad. It's not because I'm angry. It's not because I'm bitter. You know, I have accepted the situation for what it is. But I will not surrender my peace for your ego of satisfaction, for you to be able to, play these two scales, if you will. I'm not going to do it. And so, I'm sure that I'm not the only one that's ever been in that situation. I know I'm not. So that's why I don't mind telling on myself. I don't mind telling on myself because hey, that's what this show is all about. It's about keeping it real. For real though. That's the thing. And so you can't be real if you ain't gonna tell on yourself. So I'm gonna tell on myself, yeah, it was ugly. I had my feelings hurt or whatever. We all had our feelings hurt before. No shame in the game. But I had to know when to cut it off. And I did. And I was much, much better for it. I was way on the road, you know, to putting all that stuff past me, to the point where, hell, maybe 9, 10 months later, I could talk to her. And it was okay. Hey, how you doing? Hope all is well, and it was really cool. But I had to get past that, you know what I mean? But until then, no, man, I had my full bearings then, so I was good. It was no problem, you know. So again, we talked about toxic relationships. We talked about fighting fruitless battles. Uh, yo, talked about social media with the phone, but look, I've had to block people on social media, not because I was mad at them, but because some of the stuff they said was just so out of this world. Like it just, I'll give you an example. One friend of mine on Facebook, she's a 45 supporter, and she happens to be black. And I'm not here to say that you couldn't have been a 45 supporter for whatever your reasons are. You know, that's all good, back in the day, especially. But she had posted something after January 6th. So this is after the insurrection, the rioters, the thuggish, ruggish terrorists that tried to assassinate Mike Pence, hang him out there in the galleys with the little noose out at the Capitol. This was after that. This was after he was telling them they were very good people. We love you. God bless you. Go in peace and all that. And she wrote something to the effect of, hey, I'm more of a supporter now of his than I was before. And, she went on to post her, past things in there about, you know, uh, past things, with signs and stuff, Trump, Pence, this, that, and the other, which is again, I'm not hating on the first part of that. But the second part, after everything you've seen, and this is someone who I consider, all things being equal, every other thing I've seen are very, for the most part, are very positive, strong, uh, progressive, black woman. For the life of me, though, there was nothing that made sense. I mean, again, even if you hate Democrats, if you hate them, if they disgust you for whatever reason, then that needs to stand on its own 2 feet. It can't be, but this person who says, my election was stolen, that, did all the crazy, crazy things that he did, national security wise, uh, 5 police officers getting killed or hurt, whatever, 5 people got killed. I don't remember how many police officers, but definitely at least one police officer maimed, you know, uh, for you to come out like there was nothing progressive, there was nothing strong, there was nothing mighty, there was nothing, roar black woman roar, not even from a conservative perspective, even if your politics are conservative, there was nothing justifiable in that. So not to belabor that point, but normally, I would engage somebody like that and be like, hey, you know, help me understand where you're coming from. In this case, it was so what happened on January 6th was so egregious, was so over the top, was so unprecedented since, again, the late 1800s. There was no way, like there was nothing you could say. So I didn't unfriend her. I just said I removed anything that I could see from her. I'm not gonna be able to see any of your posts, whether they're positive, negative, whatever, because I just can't do it. Like there's nothing you can really say to me. Again, it's not because I'm mad at your sister. I'm not judging the sister either. You know what I'm saying? It's not really like that. It's about my own peace of mind. Um, it's about my own peace of mind. Let's talk about some other boundaries. Uh, Sometimes you might need help setting boundaries. If that's the case, that's okay. Give you case in point. Say a woman wants to go out to a bar and she's gonna go out with her friends and they're gonna kick it, right? Well, I know women who they get their girls, like if they're all single, right? They're all single, they're gonna go to the bar, they're gonna kick it at the club, and they're gonna go as a group. Well, I've known some women that have a pact, and that pact is, hey, tonight I'm going home with somebody, right? One of the group, two of the group, they may be like, hey, girl, I'm going home with somebody. I'm getting some, whatever. And then they may say the opposite. Hey, no matter what happens, I'm not going home. Don't let me go home with nobody, right? Don't let me leave that door, get in somebody's car, blah, 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 right? If they're responsible like that, they set a pact before they even go out. This is what we doing. We're gonna kick it, we're gonna dance, we're gonna drink, we're gonna get effed up or whatever, we're gonna get lit, and then we're gonna make our way back, hopefully with an Uber, a Lyft, a cab, or a designated driver, right? Uh, but that's a way where your girls then can remember this is what we talked about. We set a boundary here between ourselves. We know what we're doing, what we're not doing, and then they go out equipped with that. Everybody's safe. Everybody's safe, right? And then if somebody happened to get out, yeah, girl, I think I'm a nah, not tonight. You ain't. You know what I'm saying? So you get help with your boundaries. Here's another boundary that people never tend to think about. Hey man, if you got a young person around you, a child, and when Uncle Bubba, Aunt Flo, or whatever, they come to your house and they want to give them big kisses. Come here, baby. Let me give Auntie a hug, a kiss, or give Uncle a hug. Let me pick you up. If they don't want to be picked up, back them up, man. Get their backs and be like, respect those boundaries. Those kids have a right to have boundaries, right? They have a right to have boundaries. You should enforce them and get behind them. Respect their boundaries. Don't just say, "Well, that's just that's just flow or whatever." Don't be that way, because they have their own sense of you're already teaching them to disregard their boundaries at a young age. If you go out like that, you don't want to do that. Um, that's very important. That is extremely important. With all the stuff that goes on, most of the time when somebody's getting molested, it's by somebody they know. Absolutely 100% is by somebody they know, somebody that's already in the house, somebody who's already quote unquote trusted. So if they tell you, if they look like they're uncomfortable, get their back. If you're not sure, ask them, but respect those boundaries. Hey, you gotta learn, you gotta train people on how to treat you. You know, we have to train. We're responsible to train people on how they treat us. So, you have to learn how to make decisions that are best for you. Uh, you can't apologize for it. Don't apologize for setting good boundaries. You know, uh, it's okay. Saying no isn't mean. Unless you say it mean, right? And depending on the circumstance, sometimes you might have to give, hey, don't do that. Don't say that. I'm not gonna do that. We're not doing that. Right. Uh, and other times you don't necessarily have to go out that way, because if a person is for you, they care about you, and if they may have crossed the boundary, it doesn't mean that they wanted to cross the boundary. So you can be like, hey, no, I prefer you not do that. I prefer you not say that. And that's okay. That's okay too. Do it in a way that protects you. Don't be apologetic about it. Stand up and be strong. Explaining, it's optional. It's optional, but it's recommended. If you're in a close relationship, then it would be recommended, right? If it's somebody you really respect, um, who you feel have good intentions and you really value them, most of the time they're not going to necessarily require an explanation. But if it's really a misunderstanding, it doesn't hurt to explain. You know. So as we close this part down, let's talk about the results of having healthy boundaries. For one, it's going to improve your self-esteem. It's going to give you a sense of empowerment, personal empowerment, and self-esteem, self-respect. You know, you're going to protect your spiritual and your emotional space, your physical space, right? Spiritual, physical, emotional. You're protecting your spaces, right? Allows you, to have the freedom uh, to move about, the way that's going to be advantageous to you, in this life, which is very important. You're going to have relationship and relational equality, right? When it comes to power, in relationships, that's platonic and otherwise. Uh, you're gonna keep your power. You know, you're gonna have the confidence to speak your truth. Say it when you say yes or no. You empower yourself, to make choices. Healthy choices, and you're taking responsibility for yourself. You know, and then the last thing on that point is to just know that recognize just that as you have boundaries that are important to you, others have them as well, and they're not always the same. So just because certain things aren't a boundary for you, that doesn't mean that it isn't for somebody else. So you can't judge somebody else's set of boundaries, or you know what they feel is important. You can't judge it. Everybody's going to be a little different. We're gonna have some the same, but some's going to be different. So, I hope that helps. I know we kind of went all over the place with it, but again, it's good to set healthy boundaries. Set them, you know, and you're gonna have a much, much better life. All right. Thank you for that. All right. So now we're gonna transition to our movie review. And this movie isn't really a movie, it's a series. It's an HBO series, and it's one that I was really reticent to look at, but I ended up forcing myself to do it. It's an HBO documentary. I'm a big documentary fan, by the way, called Tiger. and it's about the life of one Eldrick Tiger Woods. Now, I've been planning on, I think I reviewed Tiger last week, so this was before the accident. I certainly hope the best for him with his health. I'm glad that he survived that car accident. Man, I really feel bad for him. Uh, really feel bad for him with that car accident. But so that wasn't planned. It wasn't planned around his accident. This is again, it was something I reviewed last week. But I was really reticent to look at it, and I'll tell you why. I was a huge Tiger Woods fan. Actually remember him being on the Mike Douglas show when he was, doing that little putt. Uh, I remember him in college when he was an amateur. And let me tell you, by the time he won the Masters, boy, we were all in. Now, I didn't grow up watching Lee Haney or anything like that, so I wasn't very familiar with the sport of golf. Beyond the greats, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Fuzzy Zeller, probably not great, but the Shock, Greg Norman, Phil Mickelson. I probably learned about him after Tiger or something like that. But uh, I remember some of the names, right? Chichi Rodriguez, give you that, Uh, but so I wasn't really, on it like that. But man, man, you talk about proud of Tiger Woods, like, and I guess culturally speaking, I tell you when he won the Masters, every brother I know, whether you like golf, knew anything about golf, I didn't know what a par was, I didn't know what a bogey was, I didn't know what an eagle was, none of that stuff. Fairways, greens, I didn't know what none of that stuff was. But I knew that we followed Tiger Woods, especially on Saturday. I knew how to look at the leader. I mean, on Sunday, I knew how to look at the leaderboard and see whether he was minus this or minus that. Whether he had a chance to win, and consequently, not just me, a whole lot of brothers. At that time, I remember I was in church, and we even had a conference. We had a guest speaker, Louis Greenup Jr. He was talking about Tiger Woods and Earl Woods and how he raised the boy and this, that, and the other. And he out here killing the Masters. And so you had a lot of black men who never played golf started taking up golf. A lot of black guys who you know grew in their families. A lot of us had stopped playing basketball. We were getting a little older, and you got a nice career going. You get together with some networking with some other black friends of yours, and maybe even some white friends too. And you started golfing, right? And all of a sudden, you start learning the game. You might get some lessons. That was all because of Tiger Woods. For most of us, that Tiger was the man. And matter of fact, he didn't um, shy away from none of that. Early on in his ads, he talked about being a black golfer and what it meant to black people. Uh, I remember when he won his first, Masters, and I believe it was Fuzzy Zeller. Speaking of Fuzzy Zeller, maybe that's why he came to my mind. He said something about maybe they're going to serve fried chicken and collard greens, and and Tiger kind of he did the what later on Barack Obama did a lot, which was just to kind of play it down. But it was it was some BS, and we caped up for him, right? We caped up for him, and we caped up for him, you know, all the way through, the issues with Elin when him and Elin fell out, and up until then, he had not quite up to Elin, but before he got that $100 million contract from Nike, he seemed like he was caping up for us too. Like he embraced us caping up for him, and he caped up for us too. And it was after Elin that he found out that white folks, that he endeared himself to. Uh, he found out that he was not uh, he was not beyond being niggerized, if you will. So, even a little bit before that, when he got to talking about, being a Cablinasian and well, put it this way. Let me just make a long story short, or a long story shorter. I wasn't messing with Tiger because I felt like Tiger wasn't messing with me. Let's just keep it like that, right? I felt like, you out here hanging with 45, and this is again after all the scandal, impeachments, and this, that, and the other. And I felt like, he kind of got out there. He kind of got out there, and it was almost like he thought he was white, to me. You know, uh and not so much, well, put it this way, like you just didn't want to be bothered with us, right? You didn't want to be bothered with us. You can't talk about no social issues. You can't talk about, police killings and this, that, and the other. And don't get me wrong, it's not like everybody should. Everybody who's black and that's an athlete is not qualified to do such things. Uh but he had an opinion on more than a few things. So I felt like for him to bounce out a lot of times was a business decision. And so, I am one of the few, who kind of just wasn't messing with him. I didn't care whether he won or lost. And, at the same time, I can say a lot of people, a lot of black men still love Tiger Woods. My brother-in-laws play a lot of golf. They love Tiger Woods now. And I had a conversation with one of them yesterday, and he said, he even told me, he's like, well, it's not. I respect his game, and I love what he's done for the sport of golf, but it's not like I haven't been critical, in certain areas. Uh, I got another friend of mine who he can't play a lick of golf, but he plays the Tiger Woods game, and I mean, again, loves it. He's not playing the Jack Nicklaus game. He's not playing the Sergio Garcia game. You know what I'm saying? He's playing Tiger Woods game. And, so I just felt like, he didn't have time for me. So I didn't have time for him. But the reason I wanted to watch it is because number one, HBO always does good documentaries. I knew that it wasn't just a golf documentary. I knew it was going to be about his personal life and people he grew up with, people who really know him outside of the game of golf. Um, and I didn't want to just judge the man based on what I saw from the outside. So, I really do value my time, so it took me a while, but I said, you know what, I'm going to be bigger than this. I'm going to be bigger than my own thoughts, my own opinions about Tiger. And I'm going to give this a look see, and maybe I'll change my mind about some things. Maybe I'll get more information. So I kind of did that for myself. I want to challenge my biases, you know. And that's like I said before, I'm not afraid of great verbal exchange and challenges. That's how you grow. So I did that, and watched part one and part two, both excellent. And I came away with one abiding word when I think of Tiger Woods. One abiding word, and that word is empathy. Empathy. As a matter of fact, an extremely large amount of empathy. This guy, wow. So let me, in talking about the series, I'm trying not to give anything away, but let me just go to one thing. This is how it starts off. These are the words of Earl Woods, Tiger's father, when Tiger was, it's in 1996, so it's the collegiate uh, awards banquet. And let me read you what he said. Please forgive me, but sometimes I get very emotional when I talk about my son. My heart fills with so much joy when I realize that this young man is going to help so many people. He would transcend this game and bring to the world a humanitarianism which has never been known before. The world will be a better place to live in by virtue of his existence and his presence. This is my treasure. Please accept it and use it wisely. He goes on to say, I know that I was personally chosen by God Himself to nurture this young man and bring him to the point where he could make his contribution to humanity. Close quote. Now, if you just let that sink in, this is a college kid. And Earl Woods is talking about his son as if he's going to be Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Jesus, right? You talk about pressure. From the beginning, you'll be able to see that Earl Woods continually pushed Tiger, his son, even as a youth, into the limelight over and over and over again. Uh, all these adults in his face, you talk about boundaries, boundaries. Earl was very protective, but when it came to the limelight, he didn't exercise boundaries. When it came to Tiger, not very many when he wanted to put him out in the spotlight. So, he had him out there. These kids are, not these kids, these people are asking him questions. Hey, Tiger, how do you feel about this? Are you going to be a great golfer? This, that, and the other. And he's just looking at these people. You can tell he's extremely uncomfortable with attention, with all eyes being on him like that, the pressure. So much to the point, even as a little kid, they're trying to talk to him about golf, trying to make the show, trying to, put on a great thing for the audience of millions of TV viewers. And Tiger's response is, I want to go poo poo. Yes, I said it. I want to go poo poo. That's what he said. He was not interested, even as an adult. He was not interested in all the fame, but he had an amount of fame that was, I can only describe it as Michael Jackson. I can only describe Tiger Woods' fame as Michael Jackson. That's it. Um, great interviews, great interviews. Family friend Pete McDaniel, a brother, was very good. His ex-girlfriend, Dina Parr. Dina Parr was like his first girlfriend, and she has some home videos that you'll see in this documentary that show Tiger in a way that you've never seen him before. I mean, you talk about free, giggling, laughing, no pressure on him whatsoever, and it seemed to give him a balance. Well, seeing that kid, it was just beautiful seeing it on his face. But I mean, it got in the way. His parents thought that his relationship would get in his way, so they cut her off. Uh, great interview from Stephen Williams, his former caddy, John Groman, who happened to be a friend of Earl Woods. He's got to be one of the most interesting on there. I won't get into what he talked about, but he's very interesting. Katita Woods, his mom, Billy Payne. Billy Payne. Billy Payne was the Masters. He was the Masters chairman at one point. And after Tiger had his issues with Elin and the Perkins girl and all that other kind of stuff, upon his returning to the Masters, Billy Payne gave him what I could just call a public whipping. You know, you'll have to see that for yourself. But I remember watching it and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe the narcissistic bravity of this guy to be saying what he's saying. The only person that I really hated on the show, if you will, that I thought was a total weasel is a guy by the name of Neil Boulton, who was with the National Enquirer. I don't know if he still is. Who gives a damn? But the only reason that it's redeeming that if they had him on there is because it shows you how much of a weasel he was and how the paparazzi, he chief among them, really just gloried, gloried in the falling of another human being. Like he just got so much pleasure out of seeing Tiger Woods fall, as if, it was such a paternal bullshit point of view, is what I can say there. He's a real weasel. He smirked it his whole damn way through. He was horrible. Another thing I can tell you is there's a point where Tiger's hanging out with Jordan and Charles Barkley. They're doing it all big in Vegas, and there's a part in there where Tiger's sort of a geek. You know what I mean? And they got all these women around, and you may have already heard this part of the story because I heard it before. Uh, but Tiger's like, "Hey, what do I tell all these women?" And Michael Jordan's like, "Just tell them you're Tiger Woods." And what disappointed me about that is I felt like at that time, Tiger Woods again was really big. He was really big, and big as Michael Jordan, you know. And I believe that because Jordan had already been up on the fame and the glory and all that kind of stuff, he knew what Tiger's shoes were like. I think he had a good idea. And instead of him being sort of an OG to Tiger, I think he just treated them like, like they was equals, like they was boys. You know what I mean? He didn't offer him any direction. I wouldn't have expected that from Charles Barkley. He already told you he's not a role model. He had already told you that he's just in it to kick it, and do what he do in Vegas, which is quite legendary. And I know Mike likes to have a good time too, but I just felt like Mike knew better. He knew better, whereas if he was going to be kicking it with Tiger like this, he should pull him to the side, and give him some wisdom on how to operate this type of lifestyle if that's what he was going to do, especially being a married man. And he failed to do that. Uh, I think partially because Tiger could do something that Michael couldn't, which was being fucking great at golf. Something that Michael has tried to master, for years and years. And because Tiger was the epitome of that, uh, I believe that's one of the reasons why he didn't. That's just my take. Uh, Brian Gumbel's very good. And as a matter of fact, Brian Gumbel, from early interviews on, man, he would have been, you talk about a mentor, he'd have been a great mentor to Tiger Woods outside of Earl. But Earl wasn't letting anybody mentor him. Um, again, I think Mike could have did a little bit of that because they were spending time together alone. Bryant Gumbel being a journalist, uh, he could see the forest for the trees way early on, and you'll get to see a little bit of that. Another funny thing that I noticed is for all his money, nobody ever introduced Tiger Woods to a tailor. All of his suits and jackets are like super huge. They're like fitting him like he's a little boy. Uh, I kind of tripped off that, but I guess I don't know, it's cultural, I guess. Anyway, um, yeah, the Woods family really knew how to cut you off, that's for sure. And I think that Tiger picked that up, cutting off Stevie Williams, cutting off not only just ex-girlfriends, but friends. That was probably one of the saddest things about the story is that people who were with him, not because he was Tiger Woods, but because he was Tiger. You know what I mean? My friend, my pal, person I went to school with, the person I've shared lunches with, the person I partied with, where we just hung out, talked about our problems. Those people, he cut off. And I guess it became an issue where he just really didn't know, who to trust. And those people who really could trust, he cut off. So again, I come away from it with a lot of empathy. It's definitely worth the watch. It is definitely worth the watch. You get to see some of the great shots that Tiger Woods has made over his career. Some things I forgot all about, winning the U.S. Open with a broken leg. And again, empathy doesn't mean that, you come away without calling a spade or saying, hey, he really screwed up here, he really screwed up there, as we all do, and we all have. His is just a lot more public, but uh, I still, I can tell you this as we end. I would not want to be Tiger Woods. I would not want to have the level of fame that he had at a young age, being sheltered, uh, not really having an opportunity to have some sort of balance, in his life because he became like Muhammad Ali, like Michael Jordan, one of the most recognizable athletes in the entire world. So I definitely recommend this documentary. Again, HBO Sports always does a good job. That's in spite of the new management, new ownership they've had over the last few years. So that's it. Tiger, check it out. So thank you for joining us on the For Real Though Show. If you like us, subscribe at For Real Though Show on our YouTube page, or you can email us at the For Real Though Show at gmail.com. As always, keep it real.